Hello, everyone, and welcome to the informational webinar on the City of Cambridge's Multifamily Retrofit Program. We're going to start with just a quick poll to get a sense of who we have here. It's just informational. So if you don't mind taking a moment to fill that out, Nikhil's just launched that. Yeah, please just take a quick moment to answer those 3 questions. So we have a few more people that we'd love it if you'd participate. Looks like we have some pretty good representation from condo unit owners, whether you're a board member or trustee. Looks like a couple property managers. A lot of representation in the 5 through 9 units, so mid-size. And then what neighborhood we have, who's coming. A lot of mid-Cambridge. Few East Cambridge. We apologize in advance for having to lump together West Cambridge, Highlands, and Strawberry Hill. We only had so many survey options. But we have some people from there. Great. So.
And Megan, I think I'll go ahead and wrap up the polling and share the results.
Great. Okay. Well, great. Thank you for participating. So moving forward, I think we've probably all been on more Zoom webinars than we'd like to the past year, but for this one, we're going to be taking questions via the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So please feel free to submit questions throughout the presentations. We are going to hold off on answering them until the Q&A section at the end. But yes, please feel free to submit throughout. If they're particularly targeted questions, you can try to address someone in the question, but we'll do our best to get to all of those. And if you happen to be dialing in only, you can hit *9 to raise your hand, and we'll see that, and then we can unmute you to ask a question during that portion. And we can go over that again at the end. And if you happen to have any tech issues, you can email Nikhil at his email address, which is nnadkarni@cambridgema.gov, and he can try to assist you. But yeah. So we're just going to do a quick round of introductions for people that are going to be speaking during today's webinar. My name is Megan Suslovic. I'm an energy planner for the city's Community Development Department here at 344 Broadway, and I help manage our energy efficiency programs. Nikhil, do you want to go ahead? And then Michael?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Nikhil Nadkarni, energy planner at the City of Cambridge. I just wanted to note, I see a couple of people ask in the chat if the webinar will be recorded, and yes, we're recording it today, and we'll plan on posting it later this week. That I'll drop a link for the website on where to see it later on in the presentation.
And then Michael, if you want to go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michael Broad. I am a project manager at New Ecology based in Boston, and I'm one of the retrofit advisors for the program.
Great. And my name is Matt Connolly. I am a development manager, and I'm joined by my colleague Dave Bisson at Resident Energy, and we've partnered with the City of Cambridge as the solar advisor for the retrofit program.
And Dave Bisson here at Resident Energy, have been supporting the Solar Advisor program the last few months and have been in the process of transitioning that to Matt, who will be leading the presentation for Resonant today.
Thank you. Yeah, so for a little bit of context on this program, a pilot version of it launched back in 2017 as part of the city's Net Zero Action Plan, which is the city's blueprint for reducing emissions from buildings within the city, and that's any type of building, including multifamily. Here in the city, buildings contribute 80% of the city's greenhouse gas emissions, and so improving energy efficiency is a really crucial part of reducing emissions and reaching our net zero goals. And this program is also nested within the Cambridge Energy Alliance, which is the city's initiative to help residents and small businesses connect to energy efficiency and renewable energy while improving comfort and saving you all money on your utility bills. And if you're curious, CEA has a lot of other programs that might be relevant to you, so feel free to check out their website. Nikhil is going to be dropping that link in the chat if you're curious to learn more. And so that's where you can also access more information about this multifamily retrofit program. And so in terms of where we're at now in 2021 with the program, since we launched the Retrofit and Solar Advisor services as part of the program, we have worked with over 60 buildings that encompass hundreds of units to identify solutions that will reduce their energy use and save them money on their utility bills. And we've been able to expand this program this year in particular, thanks to a one-year Innovate Energy Efficiency grant from the Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources. So we're really excited to be able to offer these services to an even greater number of buildings. And in terms of what you can expect if you participate in this program, it's designed for mid-sized multifamily apartment and condo buildings in the 5 through 49 unit range. We do want to note that we have worked with larger buildings, so if your building does exceed 50 units, please still feel free to reach out to Michael. We'll be putting his email and phone number up throughout the webinar, and we can do our best to connect you to these services. And so Michael and Matt are going to go into much greater detail about the no-cost retrofit and solar advising services. But just to do a very high level, this program will also help you identify financing options, whether that's loans made available to condo associations through our local bank partners or other channels. Interested buildings can also access a one-year subscription to a utility tracking platform that will help you monitor the outcomes of your energy efficiency projects. And so the Retrofit Advisor will help you access all of these different offerings. And we're now going to pass it off to Michael, who is going to walk you through what he does in the role of Retrofit Advisor. So Michael, if you want to go ahead and take over.
Can folks see that at the moment?
Not yet. If you could share your screen.
How does that look?
Not yet. If you do have an issue, I can pull your slides right back up.
Well, let's see.
There's not an obvious solution.
We all tested it before and it always ends up
Right.
something slightly wrong.
That looks promising. We see your desktop.
Yes.
That's in like the presenter mode. Do you want me to go ahead? Oh, there we go. You got it.
Thank you everybody for your patience. Okay. So my name is Michael. I am a project manager at New Ecology. a little bit about New Ecology first. New Ecology is a nonprofit organization based in Boston that is really focused on improving the sustainability of the built environment at the local level. So that is specifically for buildings, especially focused on multifamily housing, and an emphasis on low-income multifamily housing as well. So we focus on energy efficiency, energy efficient design, and also retrofits for multifamily buildings. We also do some work in the area of climate resiliency and healthy indoor living environments. So that is a quick description. You can see the tagline there. We seek to make the built environment more efficient, healthy, durable, and resilient. And so we've been partnering with the City of Cambridge to provide the Retrofit Advisor portion of the program. And I'll talk a little bit about that specifically now. So the goal of the program, it's to provide advice and guidance, and want to describe what this means exactly. So as you think about your energy efficiency projects, our role is to be a guide as you start to think about where to go with energy efficiency in your property. We're trying to provide technical resources to owners of buildings. So we have a great deal of in-house expertise in terms of systems, mechanical systems, envelope design, retrofits as well. And we can share that information with you as it's appropriate as you consider your project. And then also as an advocate for you as you navigate the process of implementing a project. So you can think of it in a sense as a technical resource and as an owner's representation resource, as an owner's rep role for you. I'll cover more specifics about the types of services we can offer in later slides, but that's the gist of it. As Megan mentioned, the program is focused on buildings between 5 and 49 units. And a question comes up pretty often about us versus incentive programs like MassSave. So we are not ourselves an incentive program. We're in the sense that we are providing money to offset capital costs. The opportunity that we offer is expertise and guidance in the form of our time at no cost to you. So we try to use that to complement the MassSave program and wrap around that program and fill in the gaps where MassSave maybe doesn't quite cover what you're thinking about for your building. And the same applies for other potential incentive programs that are there, MassSave and then MassCEC, Clean Energy Center, which offers some incentives, and then also some available through the Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources. So one of the things we can do is help to coordinate those different incentive opportunities and help you understand where you might be able to maximize the potential that's there. And then the last point here, we meet you wherever you are, which is to say that there is a very large range of different building types, of building conditions, of ownership structures, and different goals that people have for their buildings too. And we understand that, and we want to try to be as flexible as we can. And so in the next few slides, I'll show you the types of services that we offer. And there's no linear program that applies simply because there's just such a wide variety of things that could come up. We've tried to adapt the program to respond to each of those. So let me move on. So specifically, we can advise on these types of things. So the first bullet point, holistic green rehabs and additions. So if you're thinking about, if you're motivated, if you're thinking about a real investment in your property, if it needs updating in terms of energy performance or energy related measures, if it's uncomfortable inside, if it's drafty, if you're doing an addition, or you're thinking about a gut rehab of your property, or even just a portion of your property, then that's a big opportunity that we see that we would want to participate in. So we would want to, get involved with you at an early stage to talk about where the opportunities specifically lie, whether it's with regard to adding insulation to the exterior of your wall during a re-siding, for example, or to replace a central boiler system and the emitters, the heat elements in the units, rooftop replacement. If these things are all coming into play at the same time, that's a really awesome opportunity to drive down energy consumption in your building. So that's something that we really would love to get involved in. There's also an opportunity for targeted retrofit projects, so something on a little bit of a smaller scale, but still impacting the whole building. For example, if you have old single pane windows that are causing a lot of discomfort and drafts in the wintertime, and you want to replace them for all your units, then we can absolutely help with that targeted project to talk about what's the most appropriate scope, how far you want to go, whether it's replacing the full window and frame or just the sashes or installing some kind of storm. All those will improve reduce energy consumption and improve comfort in the space. And so we can get involved with that. Other examples are roof insulation, basement insulation, air source heat pumps in some cases, and then boiler and hot water replacement. And then the last item here is troubleshooting existing central systems. So we do have some ability to help. There's a lot of steam systems in Cambridge, and so the question comes up: well, what can be done without all in all replacing those? We would certainly want to talk about replacement if it's in the cards, but if it's not, then there's certainly things that we can talk about doing to optimize the existing system. So the process, and step one is essentially to do an intake call. So you would send an inquiry, and we can provide information on how to do that later in the slides. And we would set up a 30-minute call with you to cover just the basics of the program again, and talk about your goals for your building, where you are with regard to thinking about energy efficiency and renewable energy, and then the specifics about the building itself. Just a quick survey about the condition of the walls, the condition of the windows, the age of the boiler, condition of the boiler, any issues that you have with what it is right now. And that's, again, briefly, just about 30 minutes. We will then send a brief summary of opportunities via email where we think that that the project could go next, or where we think there's the most potential, and in terms of priority, what might we want to tackle first. And that is supposed to be the reference point for ongoing conversation after that, in terms of what else we can provide in terms of assistance to you. So that, if you just look at step 2 here, I'm going to carry step 2 onto the next slide. So step 2 is what we already discussed, and then I call it a menu. It's not meant to be confusing, but because as I mentioned before, there's such a wide variety of different things that we could encounter. There is a menu of options essentially that we can pull in as appropriate for a given project. So if you are an individual and you are motivated to drive down consumption in your building, and you want to get your condo board involved, we can, using that summary, that initial intake summary, we can start a conversation with your condo board, or with the trustees, or with the decision makers within the property, to try to get more people interested and involved. We can estimate potential savings if we have data, and we can work with you on how to get data. We can potentially come up with a savings estimate on what you'll actually achieve for a given project. Reviewing financing options, and I think you can see the cursor here, but as Megan and Nikhil mentioned before, there are options out there to finance upfront cost of measures, and also discussing incentive programs, as I mentioned before, Mass Save and others. Scoping in a project. So, after we decide what to do, well, what is it exactly going to look like? Well, you know, what are the technical details that we want to see? What type of system is most appropriate, and how expansive is the project going to be? So we can help you develop a little bit of an RFP, a request for proposals, to issue to potential contractors, and help you review the bids that come back and make a decision ultimately on what to do. And then during the construction phase, we can come do a few site visits to oversee the installation and do QA/QC. Over here, coordinate with the solar advisor. So you'll be hearing from residents in a few minutes. And we wanted to just make sure that we're coordinating with them and staying involved. If you're interested specifically in solar PV, then we'll kind of stay in the background, and resident will cover that for the most part, but we can address coordination issues that come up with regard to the roof or other projects that may be happening at the same time. And then in some cases, we can make targeted site visits ourselves to further investigate potential issues. So it's not a linear thing per se, but you know, you can think of it as picking and choosing some of these options and incorporating them into our process as appropriate, you know, as we have that initial discussion. So example A, I wanted to just talk through quickly a couple of examples. So, you know, here we have, for example, a 15-unit mid-rise building. It's about a little more than 50 years old. It has old aluminum frame windows that are original to the building. They're leaky, the frames are not thermally broken. So a lot of energy is being lost, and a lot of discomfort is resulting from these windows. So the decision, you come to us really focused on the windows, and you're interested in getting our technical assistance. So in that case, we would provide, as I mentioned before, the kind of discussion on scoping the window replacement, how far we want to go, what type of window we want to install, or what type of repair we want to do, and then help you draft a request for proposal and oversee the construction process as after bids come in. So again, very focused on one particular building element. If there is nothing else that can be afforded, or there is interest to do in the rest of the building. The next example is the more holistic approach, which is something we're really interested in. So if you have that type of projects, then we would love to get involved. A 6-unit double triple decker is a hypothetical here. People are motivated to really accomplish a lot in the property. This is coming at a time when the siding needs to be replaced, and there's a really old gas central boiler in the basement. So after discussions with the condo board and with everybody involved, then we come up with the scope that's shown here together through this kind of iterative process. We're adding insulation both to the exterior wall cavities and potentially outboard of the sheathing after the siding's been removed, and installing an air barrier up against the sheathing to reduce air leakage through the envelope. And then we also talk about replacing windows and frames. We can talk about replacing the boiler with a high efficiency model, and on top of it all, installing solar PV with residents' help. So here's an example of a building that is going to really drastically look different after the project is done, and is going to use considerably less energy. And the services that we offer, you know, in addition to everything that already has been mentioned, is the kind of the facilitation early on in the process to help prioritize different opportunities in the building, and getting Mass Save involved and making sure that you are maximizing the potential for the Mass Save program that is appropriate for this type of project. We can also estimate potential savings that would be achieved through all of these opportunities in the green box, and then the bid and contractor coordination that I mentioned before. So 2 examples that are kind of different sides of the program overall, but 2 potentially really interesting projects that we could work on. Some final notes. Most impactful in the full building level. I guess I mentioned that already. Whether it's a full rehab or a targeted project, example A or example B, we want to prioritize projects that are going to impact the whole building. So, in the case of the window replacement, not just focusing on one individual condo, but replacing windows throughout, getting everybody on board. That's the type of project that we want to be involved in, and that's the type of project that will maximize impact. So the second bullet point here, get your neighbors and your condo board involved. We want to work with you to get people on board with an idea. And certainly the folks in a condo association who are the decision makers, or I guess the powerful folks in the condo association are critical to have on board. And so we can work with you to help that happen by attending meetings, by making arguments, and presenting data and information where we can. There is a cap of 30 hours, so the city is able to provide 30 hours of our time at no cost to you. And beyond that, there would be an agreement between New Ecology and the particular association or owner. But 30 hours leaves a lot of opportunity. So we haven't hit that cap yet on our projects. So there's plenty of time to be spent working through these issues and giving you a project that you like. And then the final note, income eligible properties that are over 5 units are going to be best served by the Lean Multifamily Program, which is a separate program. It's actually part of MassSave. It's an arm of the MassSave umbrella of programs. And they have their own process for intake and site visits and implementation of projects that we can stay involved in and advise on, but their process is very good, and it's also very helpful, and potentially a lot of incentive money there as well. So if it's an income eligible property, we will just refer you probably to the Lean Multifamily Program and stay involved as needed. So that is the discussion that I had. Thank you all for listening, and we'll provide contact information at the end of the overall presentation, so you can reach out if you're interested. And thank you, and we hope to see you relatively soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michael. So we're now going to hear from Matt about the solar advisor role. I see that there have been some questions coming in, so please keep them coming in through the Q&A, and we'll get to that at the end. But for now, yeah, take it away, Matt.
Great. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, my name is Matt Connolly. I am a development manager at Resident Energy, and I'm joined by my colleague, Dave Bisson, who is also a development manager, but I'm going to be leading the presentation today. We work for a company called Resident Energy, a solar development company based out of Dorchester, Massachusetts, and we were selected by the city of Cambridge as the solar advisor for their multifamily retrofit advisor program. And before I continue, it'd be great if some people who are participating in the call, if they want to leave in the chat, if they believe their building would be interested in solar, feel free to describe your unit, what your building's like, and then how many units you have. It'd be great to see how many people on this call are interested in solar. So yeah, so for the agenda, first I'll just give a brief overview of who we are and what we do as Resident Energy. Then we'll go over the building representative engagement process, our process in engaging with Cambridge residents, specifically multifamily building owners that are interested in knowing their solar options. Then we're going to go over some available solar financing options that are usually available to multifamily buildings, and then sort of encapsulate all of that in a case study of a recent feasibility study that we prepared for a Cambridge resident. And these two buildings here are both multifamily buildings that we worked on as Resident Energy. in the Cambridge area, just to give you some idea of what it could potentially look like in your building. So yeah, so Resonant Energy, we're an employee-owned B Corp certified company out of Dorchester, Massachusetts. And our mission is to expand access to clean energy in underinvested communities and building types such as multifamily buildings, houses of worship, affordable housing complexes, and nonprofits. We see solar as a good way for organizations to align their environmental values with cost-saving opportunities. And throughout solar's history, much of the benefits in solar have gone mostly to single-family residential buildings as well as utility-scale solar projects. And as a company, we wanted to sort of bring the benefits to more urban areas and address some of the common barriers these organizations that I've listed usually have faced in trying to go solar. We actually got started in this church that I've pictured here. The second church in Dorchester, which we also helped go solar back in 2016. And our primary focus is mostly in Massachusetts, but we also do some work in New York as well. Great. And a little text heavy here, so I apologize for that. But so the goal of the program is to help complete a solar feasibility study for your multifamily building and consult with you to give you a complete picture of sort of the benefits of going solar and what your potential revenue options would look like going through that process. So to start, we're going to have you reach out to Cambridge's Retrofit Advisor, Michael, at that following email address, or fill out the web form that will be attached to these slides. And then from there, we'll follow up with you with an intake questionnaire to get an understanding of your building, like the electrical usage, the roof age, your building ownership structure, which definitely applies to, I think, a lot of people on the call, with the condos being a heavy participation. And then from there, we're going to create a no-cost solar feasibility study for your building. And that we'll send over to you, and we'll schedule a consultation to go over the study in detail and answer any questions you may have and go over all the benefits and potential issues that you might have going solar. And then if your building is interested in moving forward with solar, we'll submit the study and other information to the Energy Sage Marketplace on the residents' behalf. And I'll go over that in a minute, but I really wanted to emphasize sort of the unique value of this program. Not many other cities are doing this with their Cambridge's Solar Advisor program. It's a great opportunity for you and your co-building owners to understand sort of the savings opportunities you can achieve with solar, as well as helping Cambridge achieve their net zero goals and clean energy efficiency standards. And as a benefit of going through us, we can sort of be this middle person, this trusted partner that will help you vet different solar quotes, different solar bids from installers to get competitive rates, and will help you evaluate which options make the most sense for your building. Yeah, so just a brief overview of Energy Sage. So they're an online solar marketplace. I believe they started in either 2015 or 2016. That allows for multiple vetted solar installers to bid on solar installation for your home or building. And it really gives you, as the potential solar owner, multiple apples to apples quotes, just to give you an idea of different equipment options, different financing options, different size systems that different installers will offer. And once you've decided to move forward with one of these, or with solar, we'll help you evaluate all these different quotes that'll come in once we submit your information to their platform. And as you move throughout the process, we'll be able to answer any questions about the bids as they come in. Great. And so, yeah, I just wanted to go over a few different financing options available for multifamily buildings. So to start off, direct purchase. This is usually the simplest financial or financing option, where you either pay out of pocket in cash or take out a loan to cover the system's full cost. And the benefits that come from this, that I'll go over in a little bit of a detail in the next slide, are full value electricity savings, smart revenue, which is a Massachusetts-based solar incentive program, and the federal tax credit, as well as potentially some state tax credits if the system is owned by an individual condo member. As I think I've saw in the question, going solar with a condo is definitely a little more complex, but is definitely possible, and we can help you navigate sort of those complexities that are involved in that process. Yeah, so the direct purchase benefits of going solar are the electricity savings and net metering. So all the solar you generate, all the solar electricity you generate will go straight towards offsetting your electricity usage, and then any excess energy you generate will be sold back to the grid. And the value of the electricity is usually whatever you pay to the utility. But any excess you generate on a monthly basis will usually be discounted at a slight rate. It depends on which utility zone you're in. Most of Cambridge, or I believe all of Cambridge, is in Eversource, but it does depend on which part of the city you're in and what utility rate your building has, et cetera. And we can go over that on a individual basis. And then the next revenue stream you can think about is the SMART incentive revenue. So the SMART program was started in 2018 by the state of Massachusetts, which is formerly known as the SREC program, or SREC. And it's a monthly cash payment based on how many kilowatt hours your solar array generates on a monthly basis that gets sent directly to you as the solar owner, or there's multiple ways to do it if it is a condo, either to your condo association or directly to a single condo owner, and then you distribute from there, which like I said, we can go over in more detail on an individual basis. And then the federal solar investment tax credit, which is a 26% tax credit for the total cost of your installation, which is offered through 2022 by the federal government. And it's available nationally to tax eligible entities and individuals. And there are ways to capitalize on that, even if you are going through a condo association, which I can get into. Another financing option that I just wanted to mention, but is not available, that I've noted below, not available from every solar installer, is a power purchase agreement, or a PPA, where as the building owner, you pay nothing up front, and a third party financier pays for and owns the system installed on your roof. And the savings that you see all come from a slight discount on the electricity you receive from that solar array. So usually in the form of 10 to 15% of what you pay the utility is what you'll pay for the solar that's being generated on your roof. And the trade-off is that there's no cost up front, but in the long term, you're going to see less financial savings as you only see that one revenue stream of 10 to 15% discount on electricity, as opposed to the full value of the electricity if you own the system outright, as well as the SMART and the federal tax credit. Those would go to the third party financier in this case, but in the direct purchase option, those would be going to you or your condo association or what have you. But just wanted to mention that in case people were curious about this potential option. Great, and so this is on your screen now is just an example of a feasibility study we completed for a Cambridge resident for this through this Retrofit Advisor program. And the study is usually 5 to 6 pages long, but this is a high level sort of overview of the system and what our team believed would be the best option for this project, and noting that this is a direct ownership or direct purchase option that we decided to present to this particular resident. I just want to bring your attention to the array size. So we projected that there'd be about room for about 15 panels on this roof. And if you look here, the way to size out a solar system is 15 panels times 420 watts per panel. It comes out to about 6.3 kilowatts or 6,300 watts for the size of the system. And then estimated annual output. So this is where this is a condo building, and as you'll see, the solar will generate about 346% of the common meter usage. Now, the common meter in this case is referring to the common meter in their building, which would power hall lights, maybe elevators, common washing machines, common water heaters, etc. And so first, in a condo situation, the electricity will first go to the common meter, but there are ways, depending on the ownership structure we decide on for the solar, as well as potentially the ownership model of the building, we'll be able to send that excess electricity to different meters of the tenants within the building through a process called virtual net metering, which we can definitely go over on a more individual basis, depending on your situation. And for those of you that are interested in your environmental impact of going through solar, this array would sequester enough carbon as the equivalent of 6 acres of forest, which we like to highlight in our proposals. And yeah, noting here that in our feasibility studies, I should say, I think I said proposal before, in our feasibility studies, we like to give a range of cost just because we cannot guarantee the exact cost of the system, just based on the fact that you need to do more technical engineering and structural site visits before you can really get a specific dollar amount for the cost of the system. And then also just wanted to highlight for this project, this is the gross 25-year total savings. Solar is usually built out over a cash flow of about 25 years because that's usually for the solar panels, that's the warranty that they come with is a 25-year warranty. So usually you'll see any savings marked over that time period. I believe that is it. Yeah, so like I said, feel free to reach out to Michael first, and he'll get you in touch with us if you're interested in going solar, and definitely happy to answer any questions as they come. So thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Matt. So I'm just gonna go back to sharing. And so Nikhil is now gonna read out some of the questions. We should have time to get through a decent number. We are trying to keep these to questions that might be applicable to multiple people. And we really encourage you, if you do have a specific question related to your building, to go ahead and reach out to Michael at the email that's on the screen, retrofit@cambridgeenergyalliance.org. You can also call him. And yeah, Nikhil, do you want to go ahead and take it away?
Yeah, thanks, Megan. So we have a lot of questions that have come in. So let's jump into a couple of them. So I think the first one will be for New Ecology. And the question here is, does New Ecology provide engineering for high efficiency boilers? And similarly, does New Ecology help kind of navigate the different mass save rebate programs?
Good question. So the first one with regard to engineering, the answer is that essentially no, we are not going to provide specific engineering for systems. We're not a design engineer per se. We're able to potentially find a design engineer for you if that's something that that is of interest and that is necessary for the project. But we, through this particular program, we're not able to provide those services ourselves. With regard to the Mass Save program, yes, I think that is one of the primary roles that we want to offer. We want to make sure that you understand which Mass Save program is most appropriate, which of the other incentive programs that are out there is applicable and attainable, and we would help you navigate each of those, assisting with the documentation necessary and making sure that the project is meeting the spec that the programs require, the minimum thresholds of performance that is required, and then seeing it through to make sure that you get your check ultimately. Yeah.
Okay, great. So we have a couple of solar questions. So the first one is, does the ITC federal tax credit apply directly to each individual owner's tax return, or would it be for another tax entity such as the condo association, if that's relevant?
Yeah, definitely. I would say if it's a single owner for the building, it would go directly through your individual taxes. But in the case of condos, which, like I said, I think there's a lot of condo owners here, it is a little more complicated. There are ways to have multiple people own the solar array and having the the tax credit potentially go through them individually and have it be split up. Or there are ways, even though homeowners associations or condo associations are nonprofit entities, there are potential ways to monetize the tax credit through different financiers, which we can definitely go over on an individual basis. But if you're a single owner of a building, then you can just do that with your normal taxes on an individual basis. With condos, it's definitely a little bit of a case-by-case situation that we can definitely advise you on a more specific, unique case-by-case situation.
Okay, great. Yeah, and just for anyone that is curious about their individual situation, just getting in touch to have that initial conversation is going to be the best first step. So Michael, there's a question that's for you, which is someone asks if about getting better insulation on their building. Does it need to be cold out to get an accurate assessment of that building's needs?
That is a question that I would love to speak with them more specifically, maybe offline, but the short answer is if you are, it depends on the type of insulation you're interested in. If you're interested in just locating areas within the existing assembly that potentially are have breaks in the insulation or areas that are not insulated, yes, I think it does need to be cold to most efficiently find those areas with an IR scan and potentially a blower door. If you are doing a larger scale renovation in which you're trying to insulate the envelope during residing, for example, then, and we have information about the existing envelope, for example, that there's no insulation at all, then you don't necessarily need the more granular information that you would get from an IR scan. You would just be able to go through and dense pack the walls to start with cellulose or some other kind of product, because you understand from the beginning that the condition is there's no insulation. So it depends, and I would love to speak more specifically about that, but that's a summary.
Okay, so there's one question that I think both teams could speak to, but we have a question from a building owner who's going to be looking at replacing the roof of their building. So what might the opportunities there be? Both, so maybe Michael, you could speak to that first, and then Matt.
Well, so if it's a flat roof, it depends on the specifics, but I think a typical flat roof replacement would either be removing the existing covering, the membrane, and going down to the roof sheathing and building up again with insulation and then membrane over, or there are situations where you can simply install insulation over the top of the existing membrane and then second membrane over that. So again, I think it's difficult to say exactly what we would want to do. Other considerations need to be taken into account, like the dimension of the new roof relative to the surrounding features, appurtenances, parapets, if there are any. That all needs to be thought through. But for a flat roof, those are some basic options. If it's a sloped roof with gable vents on either end, and you're talking about insulating at the attic deck, then the opportunity really is to install cellulose, air seal the deck, and then install cellulose at the attic deck up to R50 or so. And we could talk about that option as well.
Yeah, I'll just mention briefly. Yeah, so solar specifically, yeah, roof age is definitely a problem or an issue we come up with a lot when we're looking to work on specific projects. For the most part, any roof that's 12 years old or younger, or are usually good for solar. If you're getting into the 12 to 20 range, it's a little, in terms of years, it's a little tricky because it's not old enough to replace fully, but it's also not young enough to put solar on. So we do have, at Resonant specifically, we do have a few partners that work on revitalizing roofs for less of the cost than, it's usually like 25 to 40% of the cost of fully replacing the roof. But yeah, if you're getting over the 20 to 25 years, if you're looking to do solar, then you're gonna probably need to do a full replacement. But yeah, again, individual basis, definitely happy to advise on that, as that's something we deal with all the time.
Great. Yeah, there's some great questions coming in, so keep them coming in. So there's one that I see that I could answer. So is a 100-unit residential condo outside the target scope of this program? So, while we've generally targeted the outreach to 5 to 49, that's sort of small and mid-size market of buildings, we would love to work with stakeholders in larger building sizes as well. And there may be, different programs, different incentives through Mass Save that may be applicable to that building. So definitely feel free to get in touch. So I will jump back to a efficiency question. Might combine two. So on the HVAC side of things, there's a question that might be relevant to a lot of Cambridge buildings. So what sort of options for central steam buildings, sort of a general overview, what might be available for buildings of those types? And in general, can you talk about the replacement of or upgrades to central HVAC systems?
Sure. So steam systems, in the city of Cambridge, steam systems are common, and they're all, most of them at least, very old. And so we often do see systems that I guess are imbalanced and maybe don't necessarily heat the building evenly. Some people end up with very hot units, and some people end up freezing. So the quick summary of different options are, in a lot of cases, with the quality of Cambridge water, making sure that the radiators are descaled and cleaned from the interior. You can go in with an IR gun in the wintertime and aim it at a radiator, and only half of it is heating up, or only some of the columns are heating up because there's so much buildup inside that inhibits the heating of the radiator. So that's something that can be done. Steam traps that are broken, leaky, either replacing them or repairing them certainly has an impact on the balancing of the system. And other things like there's a product called a radiator, or a kind of, I guess, how do you describe it? It's called the Radiator Cozy, and it's calibrated to vent the radiator at a certain time, and you balance them, install them in different places in the building, and balance them accordingly. And then controls. So a lot of these steam boilers have third-party controls. A controller that requires certain set points, whether based off of outdoor ambient temperature or other parameters, and going in and making sure that that control device is functioning the way that it should be, and that it is optimized to heat the building. Those are some of the low-hanging fruit, I guess, that we could talk about for steam. And then larger picture on HVAC, I mean, there's also central gas systems. Older boilers can be replaced with high-efficiency condensing boilers. For domestic hot water, the same applies. Whether you're thinking about indirect storage off of a boiler for heating, or a standalone tank condensing heater, or instantaneous in some cases for smaller units. So variety of options that are out there. I don't want to take up all the time, but we can certainly have a discussion in detail if needed.
Thanks. So I see one attendee wants to ask a question by voice, but maybe, so I'm gonna unmute if Christopher, you'd like to ask your question? Okay, maybe we can come back if they're still there. So let's jump to a couple of solar questions. So first of all, I think this is a really relevant question. What if only some owners want to buy in? Could the power be linked into specific units, or otherwise, how could just sort of a a subset of condo owners participate in a solar project?
Yeah, that's definitely leads into some of the complexities around condos. An ideal scenario, you'd have every condo owner in a building sort of buy in or sort of be willing to go with the solar, but there are ways around potentially giving the roof space, the I forget what the term is specifically, but essentially giving the roof space to certain individuals within the condo association and having them install the solar on their own. I'd have to double check and get back to you on whether you can do it into individual meters within a condo. I know for the most part, usually common meter is the way to do it. And as I mentioned, you could do through your common meter and then do the virtual net metering, where you're essentially assigning the credits that you generate to a given electricity bill. But obviously you're losing some electricity there if some condo owners haven't bought in, and you're offsetting some common area loads like the lights in the hallways and whatnot. But I believe for the most part, you usually do have to go through the common meter, but I can double check and potentially send a mass email around to the attendees, letting them know.
Okay, and we're approaching the top of the hour. So I know people who've asked individual questions or expressed individual interest. We can reach back out to you, with the email address that you registered for the webinar with. So I think we have one last question, and I want to let Megan close it out. Can this program help with the evaluation of solar hot water for a multifamily building? And I think I would say the answer is yes, of course, but I know if Michael or Matt, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I will say that Resonant doesn't deal with solar hot water heating, but we mostly just deal in solar photovoltaics generating electricity. I know we do have some partners that we can point to potentially help with that. I'm not sure if New Ecology delves into that at all, but yeah, I know from Resonant's standpoint, we don't have much expertise on it.
Michael, could you speak to that?
I would agree. I think there certainly are solar hot water specialists that are out there that we could pull in if needed. We have dealt with systems in the past, but I think others probably could provide more expertise.
Yeah, I would also just add that kind of separate from the multifamily program, we do have a clean heating program in Cambridge to help connect people to heat pumps and solar hot water. And we think of these programs as integrated. So if solar hot water is something that's interesting to you, we can certainly connect you to the pre-qualified installers that we have in that program. So Megan, do you want to close us out?
Yeah. I just want to thank everyone for your time, for joining us and learning more about the program. We hope this was informational. When you close out of the webinar, there should be a very brief 3-question survey that pops up. And one of those questions is an opportunity for you to drop your name, an email or phone number for Michael to reach back out to you. If you want to get in contact, always feel free to email the Retrofit email that's currently up on the screen. We'll do our best to get back to people who answered or submitted questions that we didn't quite get to. But I think that's everything. And yes, please reach out, check out the Cambridge Energy Alliance website. And we look forward to helping you. And we hope you all have a great rest of your Wednesday afternoon. Enjoy the sun.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.